Hello, my name is Arjun Vishwanathan, and I am the co-founder at Sarthi. I welcome you to yet another episode of Igniting Abilities, our flagship video series intended for audiences to discover the new age technology that is coming into play in terms of discoveries and inventions and solutions and products that will help persons with disabilities achieve so much more individually and together. And joining me today is somebody very, very eminent, and I'm very pleased to welcome Aman Srivastav, the founder of Thinkable Labs. Aman, welcome. Delighted that you could join us.
Thank you so much, Arjun. Thank you so much. Honored to be here.
Absolutely. I'm going to jump directly into it, Aman. This whole concept of Thinkable Labs, where did that emanate from? Where did that originate from? Walk us through that journey.
Sure. So we were all, college students at BITS Pilani Goa campus. And, we were just trying to figure out what is the best way we can contribute. We can try to solve, a problem. And out of that, and at the same time, we were, toying with the idea of literacy in various formats. Literacy of the computer, literacy, literacy of, skills like reading, writing. Um, while we were thinking about these things, uh, we were learning about this thing called the Raspberry Pi, which is a credit card size computer. It costs just around $40, around 3,000 rupees. And uh, it has all the functionalities that we have seen, from the 90s and the 2000s, the computers which would cost you 40, 50,000 rupees. That kind of functionality it has in that small form factor and small price. So when we were learning about that, our sort of two worlds collided. One was this world where, oh, okay, I want to do something about literacy, and I would say completely out of the blue, one breakfast conversation with my co-founder Sanskriti, um, where she was like, okay, why can't we use this to form Braille? And I was like, why are you saying that? Because we were at that point using the Raspberry Pi to control lights, control 7-segment displays, because alarm clocks and things are the things you make to learn. And yeah, so that's what happened. Like we realized that forming Braille was not enough because the literacy rate was very low. So that's where the journey started. It started in college as an independent research project, independent line of inquiry, I would say. And as we got deeper into it, we realized, oh, literacy rates around the world are low. 10% in the US, 4% in the UK, one less than 1% in India. So as we found out more about the literacy rate and why it was low, we realized that that is where the intervention is required. Your audio is yeah.
Sorry about that. I said, well, that's fantastic. And how long has this been since?
So actually, it has been going on for 10 years, but Thinkable Labs as a company has existed for 7.5 years.
Oh, 7.5 years. And what are some of the solutions that you brought out, like the one that you just spoke about? And I find this particularly fascinating because the education sector and the education ecosystem by itself is something that's very close to my heart. So, walk us through that journey of what are the products and the solutions that are available? What are some of the flagship ones, of course? And how really, and this is a three-parter, really, Aman, is how do persons with disabilities increasingly use them to adapt themselves and to enhance their own lives?
So our solution is called Annie. The solution that I mentioned, it eventually developed into a self-learning device for Braille literacy. Braille literacy comprises of reading, writing, typing, vocabulary. Ensure that you uh, learn to read so that you can read to learn. So that
Of
was the
course.
concept. Um, and we wanted to ensure that if we can improve reading proficiency for students, um, then they would face lesser challenges going ahead. They would have a stronger vocabulary, they would have a higher appetite to learn.
Of course.
And so our goal has been to create a strong foundation, and that's where we intervene. But the eventual long term impact or long-term outcome that we are looking for is people becoming more employable.
Oh, that's very
Obviously,
interesting.
yeah, so this is our input so that people who are working at the upstream of this, right? Or not upstream, downstream from where we are working, like people who are working at skilling, people who are working for jobs or visually impaired. We want to essentially connect all the way till there. Like, okay, what is that requirement at that point? And how can we help from the place we are helping at? So class 1 to 5 or class 1 to 8 is where we are working on. And how children can access this is currently Annie is deployed in more than 55 centers across the country. Almost helping 5,000 plus students currently, and all these students they basically have access to a connected learning center, which what that means is that Annie can be updated sitting right here. So in Bangalore, if we come up with some new kind of a story, a new kind of content piece, we can just push that, and just like our mobile phones update, uh,
Over the
and
air.
over the air update, yeah, exactly. So that's how people can access it. It's available both in government schools and private schools, and if a particular school doesn't have it, we add it to our roster and we look for how soon can we add it to that
It's
school.
actually very interesting, isn't it? Because you spoke about education. Now, this could easily and quite seamlessly equally be adapted to adult learning. There's a vast
Yes.
population in our country that continues to remain outside the formal or the informal education sector by and large. So, how do you see that kind of panning up?
Absolutely. So, and I want to just bring in a recent update. One of our uh, variants of Annie or our other brand is called Poly, which is for the US
Okay.
market. And the partner there is the American Printing House. It's a
Okay.
155-year-old organization. And, you know, in conversation with them, also, we have gotten a lot of insight into what would become learning for adults and what kind of changes we need to make. And we realized that it's a short walk away. Like we can do it, and we have been getting a lot of requests recently from grandparents or
Yes.
their sons or daughters or anybody who are slowly going blind and or visually impaired at least. And we receive a lot of requests because people just want to be independent. They want to be able to read, they want to be able to access information in any form factor, and that I feel that's something we need to work on. As of now, from a hardware perspective, Annie has all the components required to deliver a great experience to any learner. But from a software and content point of view, it's geared towards children.
Yes.
It has lots of yay, lots of cheering, lots of clapping, and it is currently geared towards children. So I mean, obviously adults, who doesn't like
Yes.
encouragement and motivation, but yeah, so we just need
Yeah, but
to.
works more with kids of a certain age.
Exactly,
So, tell me
exactly.
something, Aman. Can you describe the journey of how a student in hypothetically class three would hypothetically interact with Annie and work with Annie through the process?
Absolutely. So Annie is a 8 by 8 a plastic device, and how students usually work with it is whenever we go in to deploy at a particular location, um, we do a training session first for the teachers and the students.
Okay.
The training sessions can last anywhere between 1 to 2 days, whole day sessions, where we ensure that they learn enough to be able to switch the device on themselves and navigate the device to where they're supposed to go. And Annie just is smart like Alexa in the sense that Annie speaks to the child and guides them through lessons, games, and challenges. Now, for most children, it's a linear flow. So
Okay.
first there'll be an introductory lesson, then there'll be a tutorial, then there'll be a bunch of challenges and games. Once they do them, and they can so and so. So for a child who's hypothetically in class 3, they would have the concept of alphabets already done,
Of course.
right? They have done the concepts, they probably also know a few words. So there are proficiency tests on Annie which they can attempt to jump levels, basically. So they can just jump to the level which they feel challenged by, and then they can just start from there. So in a linear you know progressive the progression of content, they can literally jump to the level where they find it as challenging and then start doing the content. So that's the logic. That's the content piece. What the device does usually is, whatever games and challenges that they are playing is
Mm.
usually saved on the local network.
Okay.
So it sort of motivates them to do better because it announces the champion every day. So every day it'll audio may announce the champion as children are playing together. It announces that today Samir is the champion. Tomorrow there is Ankita. So when this happens, the children automatically want their score to be highest or near the highest. That usually results into a lot of usage. They will try multiple ways, they will ask their other friends and somehow collaborate to get to that high score. And normally what we are noticing is this kind of playway method or gamification is resulting into a lot of engagement, a lot of stickiness for the product. And the more children are engaging, the more data we get on what is working, what is not working. And so as that child learns, they move from wherever they are to ensuring that they can, so since it's a self-paced device, they need not be only on the class 3 stuff. They can move ahead, and that's the power. Like certain, if there's a child who's doing really well in class 3, they can do class 5. They can go ahead, and we basically have vocabulary per level.
Okay.
And that vocabulary uh, often is optimized as per state or national curricula,
All right.
rather than so because of which oftentimes students are smarter than that.
Of
So
course.
yeah, and so Annie allows them to go ahead, try harder words, try harder, and basically get better on their own. And whenever they face a problem, the teacher gets a notification that, oh, this child is making this mistake. So that's how the teachers can intervene.
So tell me something. I found this very interesting. You said Annie is a self-learning device. So does that mean that there's a software layer of artificial intelligence already embedded into the code?
It's a great question. Uh, Look, I'll be honest. These days, everything goes by artificial intelligence. Annie has a level of smartness. I wouldn't call it AI. I would call it, it's a smart device. It knows where you're going wrong. It can alert the teacher. It can tell you how to do it correctly. So it has instantaneous corrective feedback. So that is what Annie has currently, in the sense that if you, like, let's say you're doing a dictation, you have been given 10 words to type and write. If you get one of them wrong after the dictation, it can tell you exactly where you went wrong and where you had to correct. Now, I mean, that is smartness that is programmed to the device. But anything which is not programmed, it cannot help you with, basically. So that's where I would differentiate from any kind of artificial intelligence, which is usually, um, I would say is captured by uh, unintentionally, if it can help, or something which you didn't program into. And the Annie does not have that. Annie is extremely smart, but all the things that we have well intentionally programmed it
Of
for.
course, of course. I couldn't agree more because I was just, while you were articulating in such a powerful fashion, I was just thinking about it. There's obviously a lot of talk going around this nowadays, and the whole concept of generational AI or generational AI also somehow and seemingly holds a ton of potential in being able to enhance accessibility and inclusion.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, with advancements that are currently available, uh, would you feel that in the future you could somewhere look at Gen AI either in terms of enhancing brain learning or maybe innovative braille displays or accessibility features, braille assistance, anything really that could help persons with visual impairment fare in a much, much more comfortable manner.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think AGI, not just AGI, I think even the current, uh, if you look at the current wave of I think that itself will be extremely
Yes,
key. Yeah, like the accessibility movement was shaped by, uh, you know, screen readers and any kind of refreshable braille displays. And jumping from there to an AI which can literally describe any image to you, any table to you, uh, it it doesn't really it's not bound by anything that you are it used to specifically program for. And that's very powerful. Like it will definitely change how accessibility is done. It will make things more accessible to more people as they want it. Like they can specify exactly the kind of things they want. So that kind of tailoring is possible only and only in a uh, artificially intelligent program.
of course.
And that would really help. I definitely think images and video will become much more accessible, which will ensure that visually impaired students and people with any kind of blindness can participate effectively. What I'm very excited about at the same time is tactile displays
Yes.
becoming more affordable, because with these two, like with AI making things more accessible and tactile displays becoming more cheaper by the day, uh, because we've been working with APH, our partner in the US, for a while, and their entire um, research and currently they're field testing something which is called the Monarch, which is
Okay.
it's a huge tactile display. um, and a tactile display is exactly like a iPad or a a Kindle. And once that is ready and once that price comes into the uh, that will transform employability, because content, any kind of content that needs to be delivered to that person, will now be fully accessible. Images, diagrams, everything. So imagine a visually impaired employee looking at their own graph, their own table, their own Excel sheet on their own. No need for screen readers. They
Of
can
course.
just feel it, or even if they're using screen readers, it's so much more powerful now, because now they can visualize it by hand as well. And so we believe that these two major changes in the at least assistive tech world would change things significantly.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more because again, I found this very interesting, and this is again something that's very close to my to my heart, which is, see, India increasingly over the last few years is considered the tech garage or the innovation hub of the world to a very large degree. If you were to leave the United States and the Western capitals kind of out of the picture for now, is therefore with such kind of enhanced learning abilities for kids and children at such a young age. I was just thinking, why couldn't somebody with a visual impairment be able to, and therefore I'm trying to, my question to you is, do you foresee Annie evolving into that at some point in the future, which is also to be a collaboration device that allows persons with visual impairments to kind of come together, collaborate through the device, and therefore bring out the next innovation, which will perhaps change the world in many ways, especially with
Absolutely.
the availability of neural networks and of course what you've already mentioned, AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say Annie is very tailored for early learning, but a slight change in how the features of Annie are organized can be used for higher learning, and after that perhaps for collaboration that you talk about. And definitely a group of talented visually impaired people could build something which would have long term effects. And because like I would say, did you know, like Alexa was a tool for the visually impaired? That's how it
Indeed,
started.
indeed
And
so.
Yeah, and so I'm sure that that's possible, and it's not just because of AI, but it's possible right now as well. And all we need to do is sort of support, like find support and get the right kind, talent together. Yeah, and yeah, just believe in them, support
Of
them, and
course.
that's all that there is to it actually, because people surprise you with their abilities, and
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
I
and
couldn't agree more.
once we keep aside what we see and what we've been told, and unlearn some of that conditioning that we have, a lot of things can
No,
happen.
agree. So right now, Annie is available, like you mentioned, in 55 centers across the country. How does one go about uh, procuring an Annie in the consumer space, Aman?
So Arjun, like actually we have not launched it
Okay,
for the
right.
consumer yet in India. Majorly challenges being, one is price of delivery and maintenance.
Of
So
course.
we have not actually launched it yet, even though we've had a lot of demand for it, especially after being on TV.
I know.
Lot of people have called us, but the major thing being we need to figure out, uh, you know, for lack of a better term, sachet pricing.
Of course.
Yeah, and how will it work, and a few other things would be reliability and manufacturing on scale. As of now, and I think these are good problems to have for us. It's a growing pain, but hardware is capital intensive.
Of course
For
it is.
every new thing, especially if you want to have an innovative business model like a subscription or a rental type of thing, I need to invest the capital up front. So
Of course.
we're sort of working out these things as of now.
Very interesting. There's one point that struck me when you mentioned that, and I'm just asking this because this again seems to be the conversation that's pretty much flowing around in hallways and in boardrooms. Any particular reason that you decided on plastic as compared to perhaps any other sustainable material?
Oh, plastic versus anything else? Yeah, absolutely. So it's a great question. Um, we did consider metal
Okay,
for the longer lifetime.
of course,
Uh, it just is that we found metal to be, um, it basically, metal has a lot of issues with respect to being dangerous in certain contexts.
indeed so, indeed.
So yeah, so for children, either we get plastic or we any other more sustainable materials. uh, so as of now we've taken plastic mostly because of ease of use, it's
Of
available
course,
everywhere. But definitely, like, to make it more sustainable, we would be open to using some kind of a material. And I would just say it's just been something, it's on our to-do list
of
to get
course.
a sustainable material which doesn't really affect the world so much. As of now, if people want to change their annies, we just take them back and we treat
Okay.
it. So we are not exactly letting them discard it. We have a limited number of units on the ground, so we have complete knowledge of where every annie
And
is.
and is your production facility? Do you have a fairly largish production facility somewhere in and around Bangalore?
Yeah, so actually, our current office and our final assembly and quality is together.
Okay.
We have vendors all across the country who send us sub assemblies, and then we do the final assembly
Also,
and
you do the final assembly.
quality control. This happens in a Bangalore office,
Okay.
South Bangalore office. It's not large, it's quite small, but it's small steps.
No, of course, indeed. And I've often realized that it's the big ideas, not the large office spaces that count.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I couldn't agree more. But I do have a view on the clock, Aman. A couple of quick last questions. As you stand at the fag end of 2023 and looking ahead into the, let's say, the next 18 to 24 to 36 months, where do you see Thinkerbell Labs going and evolving?
So our goal is to completely create a system for early literacy all over the world. And once early literacy is done, we will move to higher learning, which is from
Strong.
class 8 to 12. So that's our logic. As I mentioned to you, like what we want to do eventually is to increase employability rates, right? So currently, and through conversations, even with Richa, with Shanti ma'am from Enable
Of
India,
course.
with other such players in the US, what we have sort of learned is our goal is to provide students who are eventually going to be really great employees and really great team members and entrepreneurs. And so, what do we need to do right now from a psychological point of view, from a educational point of view for that student? So that's what we are focused on. So if we can become the early literacy player for visually impaired people all over the world, uh, I would say Thinkable Labs achieved its mission, at least the first one. And the idea is to increase the braille literacy rate. So our mission is literacy rate. Long term impact or byproduct might be employability, but our mission is it remains literacy rate. And we want to be in every inclusive center as well as special center. So,
Absolutely.
and I feel like as the world moves towards inclusive education, there's an acute gap on uh, training these teachers, providing them with infrastructure and teaching aids required to cater to the needs of these visually impaired students. And that gap is what we want to, bridge with,
Yeah,
and
quite
the
admired.
ecosystem around it.
And my last question, therefore, really to come to the man behind the technology, Aman Srivastav, how have you evolved over these last 7.5 years?
Actually, me and my co-founders, we've struggled and we've somehow evolved, I would say. Last couple of years have been particularly challenging, as the pandemic has been challenging for
Of
everyone.
course.
And but for us, it was challenges as well as growth. So we learned a lot. We've learned now a little bit about everything there is, as you do when you start a company. And I am very, very happy of about how much growth has happened in this very short amount of time. Whether it's with managing money, whether it is
Of
legal
course.
things, and the incredibly supportive partners that we have found in India and the US. So for us personally also, it has been incredible to meet these people, learn from them. um, and so I would say, like, we've evolved a fair bit from college, but yeah, a lot more to go, a
Oh,
lot more.
miles to go for sure. But it's been absolutely delightful and lovely speaking with you, Aman, and hearing your very nuanced and very articulate perspectives and views. Thank you so, so much for taking the time out and
Thank you
joining
so
us on Igniting Abilities. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Arjun. I love speaking with you. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was I, Arjun Vishwanathan, in conversation with Aman Srivastav of Thinkable Labs. Stay tuned. We'll be back with the next episode very, very shortly. Thank you all for joining us today.